Hello, and welcome to this video, which is a very late review of Gears 5 by me, the lazy writer, who was too lazy to think of an intro before I started recording. Sorry about that. Also, who is still recovering from spending like 2 weeks making a video which I now can't use, which meant that I briefly lost the will to live. But that video was definitely a solid 10 out of 10, so just pretend you watched that and it was really great. I'd really appreciate that. Anyway, there won't be any spoilers in this video, so... Let's move, go! Alright, here we go. I have a very strange relationship with the Gears of War series. They're not my usual type of game, and generally don't feature many of the genre elements I most commonly enjoy. I grew tired of cover shooting in the early 2010s, and I've never invested enough in the lore or story to remember what's supposed to be going on. From the original through Gears of War 4, I'd be hard-pressed to remember a single plot point in any kind of detail. Nevertheless, there are few series in any medium where I'd rank almost every major entry as, well, a masterpiece, and I have to admit that Gears of War is one of them, and until recently I could never be sure as to why. Yes, the gunplay somehow manages to be fluid, exciting, diverse and distinct, all whilst crouching behind the waist-high walls that might put off modern players. The aggressive, almost childlike glee of literally cutting through enemies with the Lancer is unmatched in even the best of franchises, and the active reloads add a bit of variety to every firefight. But there are a lot of games with great gameplay, and very few of them leave such a lasting impact as those set in Serra, the series' substitute for Planet Earth. I'd always assumed that the Phoenix family just found a lot of dumb fun, which they often do, but Gears 5 showed me just what its world could mean and how powerful it could be. You might have already guessed that I won't be talking about the multiplayer. The first act of Gears 5 is pretty standard Gears of War. We discover a new threat, fight through a destroyed city and generally wreak havoc. There's a lot of shooting at the swarm and some stellar set pieces, and all the usual Delta Squad shenanigans. The moments of stealth provide something new, and the task of collecting components has players scouring environments, which is a welcome addition to the established order. It's certainly a return to form, and suggests that Gears of War 4, which wasn't far beyond adequate in my opinion, was nothing but a minor misstep. However, it's Act 2, and a departure from everything that we've come to expect, where the game truly shines. We start the second act with a slow journey through a settlement, soaking in the anti-cog sentiment and searching for parts to upgrade Jack. After a meeting with an old friend, the action begins, and it becomes clear that Kate's headaches hold a certain significance. Her inability to explain what's happening to her friend shows that some shadow of her deep-seated mistrust of the cog remains, which is only worsened as she is given a reason to feel guilt over the deaths of innocent people. Furthermore, an old friend is shown to be something of an enemy, and we're succinctly brought to experience specific feelings about each character through Kate's conflict. This all works to position us in her perspective, efficiently communicating a complex emotional amalgam. I felt closer to Kate after one chapter than I had to JD after 26. Now primed to undergo every beat of Kate's mental and physical journey exactly as intended, we are introduced to the first of two sandbox maps that intentionally differ as much as possible from the series' usual cramped hallways and mid-sized arenas. We carve our own path through a stunning winter setting, basking in the icy environment as we ride between destinations. It gives us time to relax, explore, and listen to the conversations that take place when the characters aren't under attack and the war is far, far away. Which is why it's important that, regarding human characters, the rest of Act 2 almost exclusively features Kate and Del. The stern yelling matches of the original trilogy wouldn't work to convey the same delicate stances, and it's good to get a break from the quirky quips of Gears 4. We instead hear softer, open discussions between two close friends, which cut to the core of Kate's emotional turmoil, and gently guide us into certain responses to the upcoming twists and turns. When other characters show up again, and the dialogue returns to impersonal interactions, our knowledge of what's felt under the surface leaves an uneasy feeling that parallels that of our protagonists. There were always heartfelt moments in the games, but none as well crafted as these. As with most great games, the added tension of our connection to the characters only contributes to the action, giving us reasons to suspend our disbelief and fear for those whom we know to be invincible between cutscenes. We rely upon them to resolve the game's conflicts and to defy our enemies by surviving. They are a sign of hope that humanity won't give up the fight. Gears 5 shows that that lifeline can be severed. We face several serious losses during the game, and whether or not they come true, there's a very real fear that they might. It means that every threat is escalated, and that the possibility of making the wrong choice weighs heavily in one particular moment, when the game uncharacteristically forces you to choose a path. There was only ever one for me, but knowing what I might be doing made it impossible to breeze through that decision. Coupled with the existential dread of inevitability, a point that I can't get too far into without spoiling several of the game's key moments, that choice, and what follows, can be devastating. Gears 5 perhaps does end a bit early, feeling somewhat short despite being longer than most in the series. Perhaps it's the fact that it's divided into 4 acts rather than the usual 5, hindering the sense of escalation in the final chapters. The dramatic finale and the last boss fight generally feel less effective as a result. However, I mostly couldn't fault the game for its foray into new territory, assembling the pieces of stories old and new, and creating something exciting that made me appreciate its characters and their conflicts. I felt genuine anger, regrets, and relief throughout, which formed a potent combination with the usual top-quality Gears of War gameplay, and bodes well for any sequels that will inevitably arise from the glorious, action-packed affair.